Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. Today we'll be talking about a winter storm that will be making its way through southeastern Canada, the northern Great Lakes, and into the northeast. Now, this is not a conventional, your classic winter storm or anything of that sort. This is a clipper, an Alberta clipper that's been kind of modified into a windstorm that could possibly re-intensify on the ocean, on the coast. So a lot of uncertainty, but definitely a lot of agreement among the models as well. So we'll talk about that. Before we do, if you guys would like to support this channel, you could do so by subscribing. If you perhaps like this content, I'm a hobbyist, I like talking about the weather, and if you like that type of stuff, consider subscribing. And if you are a returning viewer, liking the video is always much appreciated, so thank you for doing so. I want to quickly go back to what the snowfall was across the northeast. If you recall, there was like that system that was supposed to produce snow across the northeast, and it did so. While the the amounts weren't really anything amazing, historic, or record-breaking, just by the magnitude themselves, they were pretty high for the time of the year. It's October, day before Halloween, and you can see much of Boston metropolitan area got anywhere between 3 or 5 inches. A few areas did get 6, maybe even some 7-inch amounts, not out of the question. And I just wanted to ask, if you live across the northeast, let me know how much snow you got. I want to get kind of a gauge of whether or not you guys saw snow. If you live in New York, the city, I wanted to, did you see flakes? Because I don't know if you guys did. There appears to be no snow accumulations, but I want to see if some snow did mix in. And look at that, a pretty strong start to the season already. More locations seeing more snow than they saw the whole of last year. No, I'm kidding. But really, last year was pretty miserable, so this is nice to see a bit of snow across the northeast. And we could be seeing some more this weekend, so as I mentioned with that storm. And let's go backtrack. So this one is pushing off the coast. It just finished wrapping itself up, if you will, finishing its last dustings of snow, and we see this big storm that already has moved in onto the western shore of Canada into British Columbia and Alberta. It's now centered across Alberta into the Rockies, right? And what this does in the future, sorry about that, is it moves through Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and notice that it is a pretty small system at this point in time. It has a lot of warm air to the north of it. This is why Halloween Day, Saturday, may be very warm for much of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Illinois. I mean, literally every state where it isn't the northeast will be seeing some pretty warm temperatures, because the northeast has that snowpack, so it won't be as easily to warm up. The snow will be melting though, for sure. But notice that this system has a lot of, sorry about the squeakiness of the chair, but this system has a lot of moisture in terms of the snowy side. Not much rain associated with it, but a lot of heavy snow, and that could actually drop. Several models are showing up to 15 to 18 inches up across central Saskatchewan and central Manitoba, seeing up to 20 inches of snow with that, and that seems unlikely with the speed this is going at and how small it is, but that's what the storm is forecasted to do. Notice as it moves into the northeast, towards the east, I should say, into Ontario, it's now crossing into Ontario at around tomorrow, Saturday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It starts taking a negative tilt to itself, so it starts, from basically going horizontally, it starts taking a track like this, and the whole storm orientates itself like that. And as it does so, it slows down and increases its cold air capacity. Look at that. I mean, this thing has a bit of cold air behind it, right? But as it shifts to the northeast, the storm slows down, but the cold air doesn't. And some very, very strong winds could be possible along with this. Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and a lot of cold air, or at least a very sharp contrast to what you'll be seeing on Saturday, Halloween, which will be very warm. Now, Sunday, on November 1st, the beginning at least of Sunday, the northeast could be in some very warm temperatures, but as you can see, this system is just on the horizon, and it's a very large system. Lots of snow showers at this point, rain showers, snow squalls. This GFS model shows a large area of snow. It most likely won't be this big. It will be much more scattered. It will be kind of like dots all over the radar. Some areas a bit more filled, others a bit more scattered. And this shifts gradually into the northeast, and you can see that for Sunday night temperatures, it could get very cold across Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, those states in particular. And then this shifts into the northeast, and the coastal areas will be very warm on Sunday, right before sunset, if you will. If you were to look at the 2-meter temperature shaded, you could see we could be looking at some 50s and 40s, maybe even a few 60s sneaking in there. But again, with the snowpack they got there, that will be a bit harder. But again, most of that snow will be gone on Sunday. And then we see some rain mixing in, but you could see Michigan snow, the UP snow, southeastern Canada seeing quite a bit of snow. Ontario, the larger cities, metropolitans of, you say, Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, seeing good amounts of or good chances for some snow. Really, the amounts won't be too high, but the amounts will be all over the place. I'll show you the total snowfall in just a minute. It's really something that is tough to predict and always isn't satisfying to look at, as the snow's all over the place. And this is where the models a bit differentiate. So you can see the GFS takes this low pressure, the original one, way far to the north. It kind of separates itself. A lot of snow across Quebec and central Ontario. But we also see quite a bit of snow mixing in with a lot of precipitation across the northeast. You can see some heavy rain developing. We see a classic almost nor'easter develop, right? But it's a bit too disorganized to have any substantial rain or snow on the U.S. soil. As you can see, that a lot of this pushes out once it develops onto sea, and it will affect a lot of southeastern Canada, no doubt about it. But for the U.S., it stays limited. Well, we'll talk about in Southeast Canada just a bit. Notice there is a few chances. You can see the GFS definitely blows this up into a decent storm, and Maine, possibly southeastern Canada, maybe Quebec centered right on the mouth of the St. Lawrence Bay right there, could be seeing a bit of snow, quite some substantial snow, whether or not this system develops into a stronger storm on the east coast. So this will be affecting a lot of locations, and obviously with the winds this produces, there will be quite a bit of lake effect going on across the Pennsylvania, Ohio, really Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, and portions of Lake Huron seeing the most. But Lake Michigan and Lake Superior also seeing a bit of lake effect just a bit earlier on in the storm's history, so maybe Sunday versus Ontario and Erie, late Sunday to early Monday. But the reason this isn't a long sustained event is because this cold air moves out very quickly and we see another pattern takes its place. So only maybe a few hours of lake effect, and it doesn't seem to be too awfully impressive, the lake effect. So the snowfall rates don't seem to be extremely heavy. You won't be seeing 40 inches, but 4 to 5 to 6 inches across some locations of additional lake effect is possible. But those that live across Erie or those cities around Ontario, anywhere really, how effective lake effect snow can be. Sometimes it could be 4 to 6 in 2 or 3 hours versus a whole event. Notice this thing, if it does develop how this model is showing, it could be very interesting to see what it does. And you can see this thing develops into an absolute monster across southeastern Canada. And then afterwards, I just want to quickly say, a lot of warm weather, like early or late September like temperatures in early November. So very, very nice. I mean, we will be seeing widespread 60s, maybe even 70s as far north as southern Wisconsin. Let's move into southeastern Canada, as this is where that storm will pretty much deliver its brunt of the impact. And I want to find southeastern Canada. There we go, southeastern Canada. And let's take a look at this. So take it back to hour 66. You can see that at this point we have the system moving through the northeast. The original parent low pressure, if you will. You can see that the chair is also agreeing with me that that's the parent low pressure. And the parent low pressure dissipates, if you will, moves off to the north, separates itself. But again, we see that re-intensification of the storm, and quite a bit of snow could be occurring across Quebec and into Labrador, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, maybe even New Brunswick. And depending on how this forms, again, you can see 957, that's extremely strong. Very, very strong winds, most likely to do with this. Probably some blizzard conditions, right? But look how fast it moves. I mean, this isn't a matter of 6 hours, which is a lot of time, but that's very fast for a system to move. And that's probably what will keep the impacts limited. But in terms of total snowfall, if you wanted to take a glance at this, you would see that it looks pretty cool across portions of Labrador and Quebec. So we're used to seeing these green colors representing, in across the United States, where it's measured in inches. Very, very high snowfall amounts, where we see, 3-4 feet of snow. This is not 3 or 4. This is maybe a foot, foot and a half top. So definitely quite a contrast. But still, if snow is impressive, and a lot of these locations still seeing plentiful amounts of snow, and especially here, we'll have to see. This is the area of uncertainty, whether or not this system develops and how quickly it develops. If we were to look at the, say, for example, the GFS parallel model, which is a improved, supposedly, GFS model, will become operational on I think next year, 2021. And notice, lots of snow. This is in inches now, so lots of snow across here. Many locations seeing up to a foot of snow, as I mentioned. Maybe even some double-digit, plus double-digit amounts, 15, 16 inches. And this model is a bit old. You can still see it shows snow from the previous system. But definitely does increase the snow chances for those locations again. And if we were to look at the precipitation, it is a bit different than what the GFS shows, right? But generally the same pattern. We have that northern piece of energy splitting up from the main, from the original low pressure, or from the original band of snow it produced, and then we start seeing some mixing. But you can see the GFS parallel really develops the storm once it's way further out into southeastern Canada, and is favoring a little second piece, maybe moving into the northeast late Monday, early Tuesday, kind of right after that main one pulls away. But also in the long term, showing very warm conditions, or at least in the medium term. But obviously, that could change as obviously the weather does, and usually when warm weather lasts, it gets followed by some pretty chilly conditions. We'll have to see about that, though. That's still in the making. Let's look at the Canadian model. This is a relatively good model, especially for northeast systems that are poised to develop across the northeast. So you can see the clipper right there, very heavy snowfall, pretty quick moving. That's most clippers. Clippers are named after this type of ship that was that are very, were very, very fast. And there was actually, I think, a clipper, the Flying Cloud, that held a record from New York to San Francisco, and it did that in 87 days, I think, in 1851. And it sailed literally from all the way from New York all the way down almost by Antarctica, south of South America. The Panama Canal wasn't made, and it sailed all the way to San Francisco in 87 days. And it was a very fast ship. That's why these clippers are named after that. They're fast moving. And notice that this thing again develops, and the Canadian takes a bit more of what the conventional GFS does, not the parallel one, and it takes the development a bit further, closer to shore and Maine, maybe, southeastern Canada. But definitely still lots of moisture, lots of snow, and this will be a bit random, as I showed you with the GFS amounts. The snowfall is random. Some locations, especially by the lakes or the higher elevations, where it's maximizing the amounts, could be looking at maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 inches. But the lower elevations, say mainland Massachusetts or Albany, New York, maybe just 3 to 5, which is still impressive and still something that could disrupt your day. But it's not nearly as much as some of the mountains could be getting. Look at that right there across Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and northern Ontario. Quite a bit of snow. Now let's look at the European. I should have showed this model a bit earlier on, as this European is usually the more accurate one, and for this system in particular, is showing a pretty aggressive scenario. So notice it takes this clipper. It really starts developing in the next few hours. It already is developing, but it starts moving onto Saskatchewan, Manitoba by, this is now Friday or Saturday around 2 o'clock in the morning. So very, very quick moving, lots of snow. It dumps, though, in that little amount of time. And then you can see that low pressure gets a bit torn apart from its main area of precip. We see another one develop, and you can see the European definitely shows even possibly quite a bit of heavy rain coming off the shore into Long Island, maybe the Outer Banks. And as it does so, you can see that this develops a pretty strong low pressure, 981 in terms of millibars. And this thing, look at that, it becomes negatively tilted, the band of snow, producing some pretty heavy snow amounts, snow rates into Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. It could stretch as far as into New York City, maybe, the northern New Jersey and southern New York, the state New York. And as this pushes away, it obviously dwindles. And I can't really show you what it does for Southeastern Canada with this pivotal weather, as it doesn't have that region, but I do have this view right here. And this is the European snowfall amounts, and you can see that it definitely does drop quite a bit of snow across these locations, but a ton possibly across Labrador, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and those are locations. And you can see that, for example, this location puts Quebec at really kind of actually in between some heavier amounts, not seeing much snow at all. But again, that's pretty random based on which model you look at. So the phone is ringing. Apologize about that. But I do also want to point out that we see a ton of snow as well across these locations. Saskatchewan, Ontario, Manitoba, Ontario, especially seeing some locations. Again, this is in inches, Kuchera temp profile, so this should be a bit more accurate than a 10:1, though I've noticed throughout the years it does sometimes put out a bit more than expected. You could see that the amounts here are many locations seeing above 15, 17, 19 inches. This is inches, not centimeters. And it puts out a ton of snow across Labrador in those locations, more than any of the other models. If you recall, the GFS put out 30 to 40, but that was in centimeters. This one puts out 30 to 40 in terms of inches, so that's way more in magnitude. And then a lot of snow for central southern Canada and the west in the long term, and this could possibly move into more of the Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota area. Looking at the Europeans model, I want to take a glance at not the snowfall, but just quickly run over the precipitation and what it will look like, precipitation type, if you will. And again, these models tend to put little amounts of snow over a larger area than they usually are. So you can see it still has that snow occurring right there. That moves out, and we see some pretty remarkably heavy snow across Ontario into Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and while this thing moves pretty quick, it wouldn't seem that it would be affecting these areas as it's just speeding across, but it gets quickly slowed down and drops even some rain, maybe even some snow showers into northern Illinois, and southern, western Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Obviously, the further north and east you go in those states, the higher the chances. And then, you can see this pushes into the northeast, a whole combination. Some locations seeing snow, rain, snow. Generally, though, obviously, the further west you go, it will be followed by more snow, as that's where the cold air is originating from. And then this thing blows it up into a pretty powerful system, a classic blizzard across Canada and even into portions of the northeast. So definitely interesting. And afterwards, just to show you what the European does, it continues more little clippers across the plains of Canada, and then we see a potential activity increase from the tropics and the west, and a lot of potential. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya.